They thought no one saw. They thought your sacrifice was invisible. They thought your tears dried in the dark meant nothing. But God saw what you did when no one was watching. He saw the prayer you whispered when your heart was breaking. He saw the temptation you walked away from when it would have been easier to give in. He saw the kindness you showed when you received nothing in return. And that changes everything. There are moments in your life that no camera recorded. No applause followed. No recognition came. Yet heaven recorded it all. You thought you were alone in that room. You thought your integrity went unnoticed. You thought your silent obedience was small. It was not small. It was the test. If you feel different, if you have always sensed that your life carries a weight others cannot understand, this message is for you. Because being chosen is not about fame. It is not about popularity. It is not about being seen by people. It is about being seen by God. A chosen one is refined in secrecy, built in isolation, strengthened in battles no one else knows about. You were not shaped in crowds. You were shaped in the quiet. While others chased attention, you wrestled with purpose. While others compromised, you held your ground. While others mocked you, you stayed disciplined. And you wondered why your path felt harder. It is harder because it is higher. The chosen one often walks through seasons of loneliness. Friends disappear. Misunderstandings multiply. Opportunities close without explanation. It feels like rejection, but it is protection. Society does not understand awakened souls. It tries to label them. It tries to distract them. It tries to silence them. Because awakened people cannot be controlled. When you begin to see through deception, when you start questioning what everyone else blindly follows, when your heart refuses to settle for shallow living, you become a threat to mediocrity. And that is when the pressure increases. You may have noticed it. The sudden opposition, the unexpected betrayal, the spiritual warfare that intensified for no clear reason. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation. The enemy does not attack what is irrelevant. Resistance is proof of value. But here is what you must understand. Your greatest growth happened when no one applauded you. When you chose patience over revenge. When you chose discipline over desire. When you chose faith over fear. Those were not small decisions. They were defining moments. Being chosen means you are held to a different standard. You feel conviction deeper. You sense right and wrong more intensely. You cannot ignore your conscience the way others do. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is spiritual awareness. You may have asked, why am I tested like this? Because your calling requires character. Anyone can shine in public, but only the chosen remain faithful in private. God watches the unseen moments, the late-night prayers, the tears you wipe away before facing the world, the self-control no one congratulates you for. He saw when you could have lied and didn't. He saw when you could have hurt someone back and chose mercy. He saw when you felt forgotten but still trusted him. And nothing is wasted. You are not crazy for feeling different. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not strange for wanting something more meaningful than what the world offers. You are awakening. And awakening is uncomfortable. It separates you from old environments. It exposes false connections. It forces you to outgrow spaces you once fit into. That stretching hurts, but it prepares you. The chosen one often doubts themselves. You replay conversations. You question your worth. You wonder if you are imagining the signs. You are not. The restlessness you feel is purpose knocking. The discomfort is transformation beginning. Remember this: your integrity in secret is building authority in the open. The kindness you showed in silence is planting seeds you cannot yet see. The discipline you maintained when no one was watching is shaping the future you have prayed for. Nothing is overlooked. Not the nights you cried. Not the mornings you got up anyway. Not the times you wanted to quit but didn't. God saw it all. And if this message found you tonight, it is not random. It is a reminder. You are not unseen. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are being prepared. So do not lower your standards to fit in. Do not silence your spirit to make others comfortable. Do not abandon your awakening just because it feels lonely. Stay disciplined. Stay humble. Stay aware. Because what is built in secret will be revealed at the right time. If this message spoke directly to your soul, let it be known. Like this video so others who feel unseen can find it. Comment, "I am chosen," if you are committed to walking this path with integrity. And subscribe to Return to Awakening so we can continue exposing the truths that most people are too afraid to speak. Your awakening is not an accident. And what God saw in private will one day speak for itself. There were moments you almost broke. Moments you questioned everything. Moments you asked God in silence, "Is this even worth it?" And still you didn't quit. That decision alone separates you. Because many start the journey. Few endure the process. You endured the misunderstanding. You endured being overlooked. You endured being the strong one when no one checked on you. That endurance is not normal. It is refinement. Understand this clearly. When God sees what you do in private, He is measuring more than behavior. He is measuring intention. He is measuring sincerity. He is measuring loyalty when no reward is attached. Anyone can act righteous when people are watching. But who are you when the door is closed? That is where destiny is decided. You walked away from conversations that would have corrupted your spirit. You stayed silent when gossip would have made you feel included. You protected your heart even when loneliness felt unbearable. He saw that. He saw you choose obedience over ego. He saw you choose patience over pride. He saw you choose growth over comfort. That is why your path feels isolated. Because isolation builds clarity. When you are alone long enough, distractions lose their power. You begin to hear your thoughts clearly. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to see how temporary most things truly are. That awareness is awakening. And awakening is not glamorous. It strips illusions. It exposes hidden motives. It reveals who truly supports you and who only benefits from you. That revelation can hurt, but it also liberates. The chosen one is not chosen for ease. You are chosen for impact. And impact requires depth. Surface-level faith would not sustain what you are about to carry. Surface-level discipline would collapse under real pressure. Surface-level identity would crumble when opposition rises. So you were built differently. You feel conviction quickly. You sense when something is off. You cannot ignore the inner warning that tells you to step back. That is not paranoia. That is discernment growing. And yes, sometimes you felt crazy for noticing things others ignored. Sometimes you felt dramatic for pulling away. Sometimes you felt guilty for setting boundaries. But deep down you knew. You knew something bigger was shaping you. The nights you cried were not weakness. They were purification. The times you felt alone were not abandonment. They were separation from what could not go where you are headed. When God sees you choosing integrity over applause, He is entrusting you with more. Because influence without character destroys, power without discipline corrupts, and blessing without gratitude overwhelms. So before elevation comes preparation. Before visibility comes invisibility. Before recognition comes testing. You were tested in silence, tested in your thoughts, tested in your reactions, tested in your consistency. And even when you failed at times, you repented. You corrected yourself. You learned that humility matters. Being chosen does not mean being perfect. It means being willing to be corrected. It means being willing to grow. It means refusing to stay the same after truth reaches you. Many hear truth. Few transform. You transformed. That is why your circle became smaller. That is why old habits started feeling uncomfortable. That is why certain environments now drain you instead of excite you. You are outgrowing the version of you that once tolerated less. And growth can feel like loss, but it is actually alignment. Every time you chose to pray instead of panic, something shifted inside you. Every time you held your tongue instead of exploding, strength increased. Every time you trusted God instead of chasing control, your faith deepened. These were unseen victories, but they were real. And heaven records unseen victories louder than public applause. So when you feel overlooked, remember this. Your private obedience is louder than public praise. Your quiet discipline is more powerful than loud attention. Your hidden sacrifices are building a foundation no storm can shake. And the storm will come, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Because storms do not reveal weakness in the chosen. They reveal what was built in secret. You are not walking through pressure for nothing. You are being trusted with something greater than you can currently see. There is a weight on your life. Not a burden meant to crush you, but a responsibility meant to shape you. You have felt it since you were younger. That sense that you could not just live casually. That feeling that your choices carried consequences beyond the moment. You tried to ignore it. You tried to blend in. You tried to silence that inner pull. But it never left. Because calling does not disappear just because it is inconvenient. God saw the nights you chose growth over entertainment. He saw the moments you turned down opportunities that did not align with your values. He saw the discipline you practiced when no one would have blamed you for giving in. That is not random behavior. That is alignment in progress. You are being trained in restraint. Restraint is power. Anyone can react. Few can respond with control. And you have been learning control in secret. Control over your tongue. Control over your desires. Control over your impulses when emotions were high. That self-mastery is rare. And rarity is always misunderstood. People may have called you distant. They may have said you changed. They may have accused you of thinking you are better than them. But the truth is simpler. You became aware. And awareness separates. When your eyes open, you cannot pretend they are still closed. When your heart becomes sensitive to truth, you cannot enjoy deception the same way. So yes, you stepped back. Yes, you became quieter. Yes, you started observing more than speaking. That silence was not weakness. It was discernment sharpening. You noticed who only reached out when they needed something. You noticed who celebrated you publicly, but competed with you privately. You noticed who smiled in your face, but questioned you behind your back. And instead of reacting with bitterness, you withdrew with wisdom. That choice was seen. Because being chosen does not mean fighting every battle. It means knowing which battles are distractions. You are not called to prove yourself to everyone. You are called to preserve your integrity before God. And integrity costs. It costs popularity. It costs comfort. It costs approval from people who do not understand your path. But what you gain is far greater. You gain clarity. You gain inner peace. You gain alignment with your purpose. The chosen one is often accused before being understood. History shows it. The ones who speak truth are labeled extreme. The ones who live disciplined lives are called rigid. The ones who refuse corruption are seen as arrogant. But over time, consistency silences accusation. And you have been consistent in ways no one else saw. Consistent in prayer. Consistent in self-reflection. Consistent in trying to correct your character, even when no one demanded it. That internal work matters more than external applause. You are being built from the inside out. Because when the time comes for visibility, you will not collapse under it. Many people ask for elevation. Few ask for preparation. You were given preparation. And preparation can feel like delay. You watched others move faster. You saw others gain recognition quickly. You question why your path seems slower. But slow foundations are strong foundations. Quick success without depth creates fragile outcomes. Your growth has been steady, not flashy. Invisible but intentional. Even in moments where you slipped, you felt immediate conviction. You could not sit comfortably in wrongdoing. You could not enjoy what conflicted with your spirit. That discomfort is protection. It keeps you aligned. God saw the times you apologized first. He saw the times you forgave without closure. He saw the times you let go without revenge. That maturity is not common. It is cultivated. And cultivation happens underground before anything breaks the surface. Right now you may feel buried. Buried in responsibility. Buried in waiting. Buried in unanswered questions. But seeds are buried before they rise. Being hidden is not the same as being forgotten. Being tested is not the same as being rejected. Being delayed is not the same as being denied. Every quiet decision you made built spiritual muscle. Every unseen sacrifice increased your endurance. Every moment you trusted God without visible evidence strengthened your faith. And faith built in darkness shines differently in light. You are not behind. You are being positioned, positioned for responsibility, positioned for influence, positioned for impact that requires maturity, not ego. There are levels of blessing that would have destroyed the old version of you. There are doors that would have opened too soon and exposed weaknesses you had not yet conquered. So you were slowed down, not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. Every closed door forced you inward. Every disappointment pushed you to rely on God more deeply. Every betrayal stripped away dependency on people who were never meant to stay. And in that stripping, you were strengthened. You began to realize something powerful. Your validation does not come from applause. Your worth does not fluctuate with opinions. Your peace does not depend on external approval. That realization changes everything. Because once a chosen one understands their identity, manipulation loses power. You cannot be easily controlled when you are no longer desperate to be liked. You cannot be easily shaken when your confidence comes from obedience, not attention. That is why the enemy tried to attack your identity early. Through criticism, through comparison, through subtle suggestions that you were not enough. But even when you doubted yourself, you kept returning to growth. You kept correcting yourself. You kept seeking understanding. You kept asking God to purify your intentions. That humility is rare. Many people ask for success. Few ask for sincerity. But you asked to be real. You asked to be aligned. You asked to be used for something meaningful. And those kinds of prayers come with process. Process feels repetitive. It feels slow. It feels invisible. But repetition builds mastery. You have been mastering patience, mastering restraint, mastering faith under pressure. And pressure reveals authenticity. When stress hit your life, you did not completely collapse. You bent. You struggled. You cried. But you did not abandon your values. That is strength. Real strength is not loud. It is consistent. The world celebrates noise. God honors faithfulness. And you have been faithful in small things. Faithful in private prayer. Faithful in self-discipline. Faithful in turning away from what would stain your character. Even when nobody congratulated you. Even when nobody noticed your effort. Even when people misunderstood your silence. He noticed. The nights you fought battles in your mind. The days you smiled while carrying weight no one could see. The moments you chose gratitude instead of complaint. Those moments built spiritual authority. Authority is not given to the loudest voice. It is given to the most surrendered heart. And surrender is not weakness. Surrender is trust. You surrendered outcomes. You surrendered timelines. You surrendered the need to control every detail. That kind of surrender invites divine direction. You may not see the full picture yet, but pieces are aligning behind the scenes. Conversations you never heard shifted in your favor. Opportunities you thought were lost were actually redirections. People who walked away created space for better alignment. What felt like subtraction was refinement. You were being detached from what could not support your next level. And yes, it hurt. Detachment always does. But attachment to the wrong things costs more in the long run. The chosen one learns to release quickly. Release grudges. Release toxic cycles. Release the need to be understood by everyone. Because clarity about purpose outweighs the need for approval. You have grown in ways you do not even fully recognize yet. Your reactions are calmer. Your discernment is sharper. Your standards are higher. That growth did not happen by accident. It happened in hidden rooms, in quiet reflection, in honest repentance, in uncomfortable self-confrontation. And that kind of growth cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be rushed. It must be lived. You lived it. That is why this season feels different. There is a quiet confidence rising in you. Not arrogance, not pride, but assurance. An assurance that you are not wandering. An assurance that your sacrifices mattered. An assurance that God truly saw what you did when no one was watching. And that assurance is the beginning of elevation. Elevation does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it begins as a shift in mindset. A deeper peace. A stronger boundary. You start saying no without guilt. You start walking away without explanation. You stop over-explaining your decision to people who were never assigned to understand you. That shift is growth becoming visible. Before you sought reassurance. Now you seek alignment. Before you chased clarity from others. Now you sit in prayer until clarity comes from God. That is maturity. And maturity attracts responsibility. You are no longer easily triggered. You are no longer desperate to win every argument. You are no longer addicted to being right. Instead, you crave peace. You crave truth. You crave depth. That craving is evidence of transformation. God saw when you corrected yourself in private. He saw when you admitted your flaws without blaming others. He saw when you chose growth instead of ego. That self-awareness is preparation for influence. Because influence without humility destroys people. But influence with humility heals people. And healing is part of your calling. You have always felt it. That pull to uplift others. That instinct to guide, to encourage, to protect. Even when you were still healing yourself. You carried strength for others while battling silently within. That duality shaped you. It made you compassionate without being naive. It made you strong without being harsh. It made you aware without being cynical. These qualities were formed in the dark. Not on a stage. Not in applause. But in hidden consistency. You did not always understand why you were tested so intensely. Why temptations came strong. Why distractions appeared at critical moments. Why discouragement hit right before breakthroughs. But now you see the pattern. Every test revealed something inside you. Every distraction exposed what still needed discipline. Every delay forced you to confront impatience. And each time you grew. That is why your spirit feels heavier now. Not heavier with stress. Heavier with awareness. You cannot entertain what you used to entertain. You cannot laugh at what once seemed harmless. You cannot compromise the way you once did. Because your conscience has been sharpened. And a sharpened conscience is a sign of closeness to God. The chosen one is not perfect. But they are responsive. When corrected, they listen. When convicted, they adjust. When guided, they obey. That responsiveness is what separates you. Many people resist correction. They defend their flaws. They justify their weaknesses. But you wrestled with yourself. You chose accountability. You chose repentance. You chose to break patterns that ran in your family for generations. Do you understand how powerful that is? Breaking cycles in silence. Healing wounds no one else acknowledged. Refusing to pass down dysfunction just because it was familiar. God saw that courage. He saw the internal battles you fought alone. He saw the habits you dismantled piece by piece. He saw the pride you swallowed. He saw the apologies you made. He saw the tears you shed in private after realizing you had to change. That kind of transformation does not go unnoticed in the unseen realm. And because of that, your future is being built on solid ground. Not hype. Not emotion. Not temporary motivation. But character. Character forged when nobody was watching. Character tested when nobody was clapping. Character strengthened when nobody even knew you were struggling. This is why you cannot compare your journey to anyone else. You were not just being blessed. You were being built to carry weight others would drop. Built to stand firm where others would fold. Built to remain grounded when recognition finally comes. You think the silence was empty. It was not empty. It was construction. While you felt forgotten, foundations were being laid. While you felt delayed, stability was being formed. While you questioned your progress, depth was being added beneath the surface. Depth is invisible at first, but depth determines endurance. Many people shine quickly and fade just as fast. Many rise fast because they skipped refinement. Many gain influence without ever mastering themselves. You were not allowed to skip refinement. That is why your temptations were intense. That is why your distractions came disguised as opportunities. That is why certain relationships entered your life only to test your discernment. Every situation asked you one question. Who are you when no one is watching? And over time, your answer became consistent. You are disciplined. You are sincere. You are willing to walk away from what compromises your soul. That consistency is rare currency. In a world that rewards image, you chose integrity. In a culture that glorifies shortcuts, you chose patience. In an environment that celebrates ego, you chose humility. Do you realize how countercultural that is? You have been swimming against the current. And swimming against the current builds strength you cannot get by floating. There were moments when you felt like giving in. Moments when compromise seemed easier. Moments when you thought, maybe I am overthinking this, maybe it does not matter. But something inside you would not let you settle. That inner resistance was protection. God was guarding your standards through conviction. Conviction is a gift. It keeps you from becoming what you once prayed not to be. You asked to be guided. You asked to be corrected. You asked to be shaped into someone worthy of greater responsibility. And shaping requires friction. Friction against your ego. Friction against your impatience. Friction against your desire for quick validation. That friction refined you. It burned away insecurity. It exposed pride. It forced you to confront hidden motives. And you did not run. You stayed in the process. You allowed yourself to be humbled. You allowed yourself to be stretched. You allowed yourself to be transformed. That willingness is why elevation feels closer now. Not because you are perfect, but because you are prepared. You are no longer seeking attention. You are seeking impact. You are no longer chasing people. You are chasing purpose. You are no longer desperate for quick outcomes. You are patient for meaningful ones. That shift changes your entire trajectory. When your motives are purified, your steps become steady. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You stop competing. Instead, you focus. Focus on growth. Focus on obedience. Focus on becoming the person your calling requires. And while you focused, God watched. He watched your consistency. He watched your sincerity. He watched your private battles. He saw when you resisted what could have derailed you. He saw when you chose righteousness, even when nobody would have known the difference. He saw when you stayed loyal to values that cost you socially. Those decisions carry weight in the unseen realm. Nothing done for the sake of integrity is wasted. Nothing surrendered for the sake of obedience disappears. Everything compounds. Every small act of faithfulness builds momentum. Every hidden sacrifice strengthens your foundation. Every quiet victory increases your spiritual capacity. You may not see the results immediately, but you feel the shift internally. You feel more grounded, more aware, more certain of who you are becoming. That certainty is not arrogance. It is alignment. And alignment brings peace that no external validation can replace. That peace did not come easily. It was earned through surrender. It was carved out of confusion. It was formed in moments when you had more questions than answers. There were days you did not understand why doors kept closing. Days you watched others celebrate while you were still waiting. Days you wondered if your obedience was even making a difference. But even in that uncertainty, you stayed steady. You did not abandon your principles. You did not trade your values for quick relief. You did not numb yourself just to escape the pressure. That restraint is power. Most people break under prolonged silence. They seek noise to drown out doubt. They seek attention to mask insecurity. But you sat in the quiet. You faced your thoughts. You confronted your fears. You allowed yourself to feel discomfort instead of running from it. That kind of courage transforms a person from the inside out. The chosen one does not grow through comfort. They grow through confrontation. Confrontation with weakness. Confrontation with ego. confrontation with the parts of themselves that need refinement. And you confronted those parts honestly. You admitted when you were wrong. You corrected your intentions. You adjusted your behavior even when no one demanded it. That internal correction is a sign of spiritual maturity, because true maturity is self-governed. You do not need constant reminders to do what is right. You do not need an audience to behave with integrity. You do not need praise to remain disciplined. You operate from conviction, and conviction is stronger than pressure. Pressure may push you temporarily. Conviction anchors you permanently. There were moments when pressure tried to reshape you. Peer pressure, cultural pressure, financial pressure, emotional pressure. But your conviction held. You bent at times, but you did not break. And every time you resisted the urge to compromise, your foundation grew stronger. This is why you feel different now. You are not easily impressed. You are not easily intimidated. You are not easily persuaded by shallow promises, because you have seen what temporary satisfaction costs. You have experienced the emptiness that follows shortcuts. And you decided you would rather wait for what is right than rush into what is wrong. That decision separated you from many. Some called you boring. Some called you overly serious. Some distanced themselves because you would not lower your standards. But standards protect destiny. When you protect your standards, you protect your future. God saw the times you felt lonely because of those standards. He saw when you questioned whether the isolation was worth it. He saw when you chose to stay aligned instead of blending in. Those moments built spiritual credibility. Credibility in the unseen comes before credibility in the seen. You cannot carry visible responsibility without invisible trust. And invisible trust is earned in private obedience. You earn that trust step by step, through small decisions, through quiet discipline, through unseen repentance. Repentance is not weakness. It is strength. It takes strength to admit you need correction. It takes strength to walk away from old habits. It takes strength to apologize without defending yourself. And you have shown that strength repeatedly. This is why you sense that something is shifting. Not externally yet, but internally. There is a stability forming within you. A calmness that was not there before. A clarity about what you will and will not tolerate. A deeper awareness of who you are in God's sight. That awareness is dangerous to negativity. Because when you know you are seen by God, you no longer need to prove yourself to people. When you know your private obedience matters, you no longer crave public applause. When you know your sacrifices are recorded, you stop resenting the weight. And that mindset unlocks endurance. Endurance that carries you through seasons others would abandon. Endurance that keeps you focused when distractions try to pull you sideways. Endurance that reminds you your story is still being written. You are not at the end. You are in the forging.